Alright, so another Monday, another update video. Uh, Not a whole lot different, but I finally got a haircut and shaved like a respectable guy. I wasn't willing to get rid of the baby stash. I'm not ready to let that go yet. Uh, I know rationally it'll grow back, but there's a part of my brain that hasn't quite processed it yet, so I'm like, I worked hard for this, I don't want to let go of it yet. Um, we'll see what happens with the neck beard. If that grows back thicker and fuller, then I might break down and shave the stash. Um, but yeah, wow, it's starting to show up on videos. Um, yeah, little bit of vocal difference over the past week or so. Um, so there's that. But yeah, um, not a whole lot different physically overall. I'm at 14 weeks now, 14 shots. About to take the 15th this week. And yeah, uh, shaving was easier than I expected. I didn't cut myself or anything, obviously. It's kind of a rite of passage that I've been looking forward to, but at the same time, I did it alone. I I kind of would have liked to have done that when I was younger with my dad or some kind of mentor figure. So, yeah, I don't know why that's been important to me, but it is. I think over a year ago, I was talking to a friend online, and he was talking about shaving supplies, and I just had this little internal meltdown because I was so distressed that this was a rite of passage and a routine thing that's such an icon of manhood that is denied to me. Um, and it's not that I want to grow a big, huge hipster beard or anything. Although it would be nice to, grow my own jawline. But I don't know. Um, my father shaved, when I was growing up. I used to watch him shaving, but he had a full beard, so it was just kind of like trimming up the edges and everything. I did ask him for tips over a video chat, and he gave me a few pointers on shaving. I don't know if he has any concept of what that means to me. It's kind of hard to tell because I'm not close to my parents. They're in another state, so they're long distance relationship. It's kind of hard to tell um, what their take on things is sometimes. My father's a very quiet person. Um, he's, I don't want to say he's hard to get close to, but he's a gentle man. He's not into sports. He was a librarian when I was growing up, which, yeah, I got all the books. My man cave is half books, at least two-thirds books, maybe. Um, so yeah, I come by that honestly. But yeah, so he wasn't a man's man in some senses, but he worked on the car. He did a lot of woodworking. He was always doing work on the house. My parents started remodeling their house when I was a baby and finished 3 years ago. So, 35 years of remodeling on that house. He built all the cabinetry, he did wiring. He knew his limits. When there were certain things that he was afraid of screwing up, he would bring in a professional, like taking out supporting walls, doing stuff with that. But he did a lot of it himself, and he did a really good job. I've always admired that. And he was a librarian. Anything he wanted to know how to do, woodworking, cabinetry, wiring, he'd go, he'd check at the books, he'd read up on it, and he'd teach himself, and then he'd do it. Um, you know, and this was back before you had YouTube tutorials or anything. Now you go look on YouTube and learn how to do just about anything. But yeah, I love my father. I used to follow him around and try and learn from what he knew when I was growing up, and have learned a fair amount of woodworking. But yeah, when I was a kid, every time, you know, somebody said I was daddy's girl or whatever, that meant a lot to me. But he's also got some of the typical masculine. He doesn't show his feelings a whole lot. He doesn't talk about his feelings. I will admit I've probably absorbed a lot of that too. My girlfriend asked me, you know, what are you feeling? What do you think? I'm like, I don't know. Well, what do you think? Well, there was this YouTube video, you know, that I was watching, or yeah. But you know, how do you feel about this? It's like, I haven't thought about that. So yeah, I'm probably not as in touch with my feelings as I should be. Maybe that's part of why it took me so long to realize I was trans. But by the same token, that is something that our culture encourages, to the detriment of many people. That men are not supposed to be emotional. That men are not supposed to talk about deeper things or make deeper connections. And I have picked up some of those habits. I mean, I don't want to say toxic masculinity. It's borderline toxic. But yeah, I have absorbed some of those things. My father definitely was an example of some of those things, despite the fact that he's a very sensitive, kind, gentle person. I don't know why the lighting is screwing up here. Ooh, there we go. But yeah, I wish that I was a little closer with my father than I am. That's not just a trans thing. That's my parents had a little bit of role reversal when I was growing up. My mother was very much the authority figure, but she was a stay-at-home mom, so I was around my mother more than I was around my father. So in some ways I got to know her better than I got to know my father, and I think that's probably somewhat typical, becoming less so with each generation, because gender roles are not as rigid as they used to be, which is awesome. But yeah, my dad was the breadwinner. He worked full time, so he was out of the house a lot. And yeah, I wish I knew him better. You know, and he's retired now, but they're still distant, geographically, and maybe somewhat emotionally. My family is not huggers. My family is not talk about your feelings kind of people. So maybe I get that from both of them, not just my father. But yeah, as I become trans, some of that is helpful in a way, because I don't have to tailor those behaviors in social groups and everything to present as more masculine. But by the same token, it's sad that culturally that's what's, you know, the masculine thing. My girlfriend and I were talking about friendships and relationships, and how women are supposed to have this circle of friends, and they have lots of friends, and they talk about things. They talk about everything. Whereas men, we're supposed to have a few buddies, drinking or hunting or game day buddies. And I was saying that, and she said, well, that's very activity oriented. The guys, they go and they do a thing together. They don't talk about things. They're actively doing things, and this is what we're doing. And there might be a little bit of chatter on the side, but you're not talking about, oh, hey, you know, this is what's been going on in my life. this is how I've been feeling, this is what I've been thinking about. That's not encouraged for dudes. That's a woman thing. And I've met a lot of guys who break that, standard. And gender is a spectrum, so, you might have some men who behave more one way, some men who are more open about talking about their feelings, and it doesn't make them less of a guy. They might be a cisgender, straight, very normal guy. I know a lot of really big dudes that you would look at them and be like, oh, yeah, that's a man. But some of them are more open about talking about feelings and everything, and that's nice. But then sometimes I feel awkward with that too, because I don't quite know how to do that. And then my girlfriend Jen was saying that she would almost prefer more when we're with friends, she likes doing an activity rather than just, she doesn't talk to other people about how she feels, and the deeper things that are going on in her life. So that's almost a more masculine, traditionally, culturally, what we would consider masculine approach towards friendships. So she might be more towards that direction than I am, and she's definitely cisgender. Pansexual, but cisgender. So, yeah, just some vague thoughts on gender roles there. My voice has been feeling a little bit different the past week or so. I need to sing more, just, to myself and everything. I can tell that my upper range is getting real shaky, squeaky even, which is a little weird. So, yeah, I'd rather not lose that. I mean, I'm really looking forward to being able to get my voice lower. But by the same token, I worked really hard to get my chest voice as high as I can get it to go. That actually took a lot of effort, so I'd prefer not to lose that. But I get busy, and I don't sing as often as I should. Sorry the lighting keeps changing. I'm just using the window light. It's not a lamp or anything. And I guess it must be getting brighter and dimmer, and that's why the lighting keeps screwing up on the video. So I have no control over that. I don't have ideal filming conditions in the house, obviously. Yeah, I'm sorry for the messy background. But yeah, the man cave is still a work in progress. Maybe at a later date I'll try in front of the books. Might be a cleaner background. Anyways, so on that note, gonna try another song. Just one that is fairly familiar to me. This is by Sting. He wrote a musical, like a Broadway musical, which I don't think it's on Broadway anymore, but it was for a while there, called The Last Ship. But some of the songs and some of the ideas were drawn from an earlier album called The Soul Cages that I was in love with. I grew up next to the ocean, and so the whole musical and everything being centered around people who look to the ocean for their livelihood, that kind of struck a chord with me, so I'm a fan. And this particular song definitely harkens back to the Soul Cages album, but it was a newer song and I just fell in love with it when I first heard it. But it also is part of what put me in mind of the ideas of toxic masculinity and how men interact or are expected to interact, and how that isn't always a healthy thing. So I don't know, maybe as a trans guy that's something to keep an eye out for in myself. I'm fortunate in that I have a partner that I can talk with about all kinds of things, so that helps. But on the one hand, I'm very open with people about what's going on in my life, that, hey, I'm trans, hey, this is, the thing that's going on. I don't keep a lot of secrets, but at the same time, I don't tend to talk about a lot of my deeper thoughts, which is some of what this video kind of journaling is. Because I was thinking it would be useful to me to look back at a later date and see what my thought processes were and how those change. Anyways, so sorry once again there's no musical accompaniment or instrumental accompaniment, but this one should do all right without. They say there's an underground river that none of us can see, and it flows through winding tunnels on its way to a tideless sea. And across that sea is an island, a paradise we are told, where the toils of life are forgotten, and they call it the island of souls. For only a soul can go there, a soul that's been set free from the confines of our working life to find eternity. Your old man had a cage for his pigeons. That's really where he kept his soul. And when he'd watch them fly, he would soar himself. At least that's how I was told. But his soul was still trapped in the cage, son, as the birds they soared to the sky. And he couldn't find his own way out, at least not till the day he died. A man builds a cage with the tools he is given. His casket is sealed with a riveter's gun. A solitary madness is where he is driven. It was him that was trapped in the soul cage, son. It was him that was trapped in the soul cage. I know that he loved you, but he hadn't the words. Be easier speaking the language of birds. For to speak of emotions, it just wasn't done. It was him that was trapped in the soul cage, son. It was him that was trapped in the soul cage. Man builds a cage with the tools he is given. His casket is sealed with a riveter's gun. A solitary madness is where he is driven. It was him that was trapped in the soul cage, son. It was him that was trapped in the soul cage. Da, 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 da. Next week.